Poor Mom takes twins to eat on Christmas Eve with only $20. But the billionaire's son sees everything and asks his dad to do the unbelievable. Christmas Eve was freezing. The wind cut across the face of anyone who dared to go out without a scarf wrapped tightly around their neck. The streets were full of hurried people, carrying colorful bags, rushing to grab the last gifts before the shops closed. Jenna held Ivy and Kate's hands firmly as she walked down the sidewalk. The two little blonde girls with light eyes looked at everything around them with that innocent curiosity only children have. Their noses were red from the cold, and their rosy cheeks glowed under the Christmas lights twinkling on every lamppost. "Mommy, where are we going?" asked Kate, skipping as she walked. "It's a surprise," Jenna replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ivy, always the quieter one, just squeezed her mother's hand and kept walking in silence. In truth, it wasn't exactly a surprise. It was all Jenna could offer, 20 crumpled dollars in the pocket of her old coat. It was all that was left until the end of the month. Everything. But it was Christmas Eve, and she wasn't going to let her daughters spend the night eating instant noodles again. Not tonight. Not when every other child in the world was celebrating with their families. They stopped in front of a small family diner, nothing fancy, just a simple place with scratched wooden tables and modest Christmas decorations. There was a wreath on the door and lights twinkling in the window. The smell of homemade food escaped through the crack in the door. Jenna took a deep breath, feeling the icy air enter her lungs, and pushed the door open. The warmth of the room hit their faces like a hug. It smelled of roast chicken, cinnamon, and something sweet coming from the kitchen. There were few people inside, a few families, couples, a group of friends laughing in the corner. Ivy squeezed her mother's hand tighter. "Is this it, Mummy?" "This is it, my love." They sat at a table in the corner near the window. Kate climbed onto the chair with effort and soon pressed her face against the cold glass, watching the people passing by outside. Ivy stayed quiet beside Jenna, swinging her short little legs that didn't reach the floor. The waitress approached with a tired smile and handed over the menu. She was an older woman, with her hair in a messy bun and an apron stained with sauce. Jenna took the menu and opened it slowly. Her eyes scanned the prices. Each dish cost between $12 and $18. She felt her stomach tighten. She did the math mentally. If she ordered one dish, there would still be a few dollars left for the bus ride home. "Mommy, I want this one." Kate pointed to the photo of a plate with golden chicken, roasted potatoes, and colorful vegetables. "We don't have that kind of money," Jenna said softly, barely able to look at her daughter. Kate frowned, confused. "But it's Christmas." "I know, sweetie. But we're going to share a plate, okay? It'll be just as yummy." Ivy looked at her mother and said nothing. She just nodded, as if she understood. Jenna called the waitress back and pointed to the cheapest dish on the menu. "Just one plate, please. We're going to share." The woman looked at Jenna, then at the two girls, and something passed over her face. Pity. Understanding, Jenna didn't know. But the waitress just nodded and walked away without saying a word. Ivy touched her mother's arm. "It's okay, Mommy. We can share." Jenna swallowed hard and stroked her daughter's blonde hair. "I know, my love. We always find a way." Kate started doodling on a napkin with a pen she found in Jenna's purse. Ivy stayed looking out the window, quiet as always, watching the lights twinkling outside. Jenna watched them both and felt her chest tighten. They deserved so much more than this, so much more than a broke, unemployed mother who could barely put food on the table. They deserved gifts, a warm house, new clothes, toys, but they never complained. They never asked for too much, and that hurt even more. On the other side of the restaurant, sitting at a larger table near the decorative fireplace, was Jonathan, a tall man with broad shoulders, but with a calm demeanor that didn't draw attention. He wore a simple grey wool sweater and jeans, nothing that indicated who he really was, nothing that drew stares. Beside him, a boy with brown hair and honey-colored eyes poked at his food distractedly. "Lucas, eat properly," Jonathan said patiently, but without irritation. "I'm eating, Dad." Lucas took a forkful of chicken, chewed slowly, but soon stopped again. He was looking at something. Jonathan followed his son's gaze and saw three people sitting in the corner. A young woman with brown hair tied in a messy ponytail, and two little girls. Blonde. Lookalikes. Twins. Probably. They were waiting for something. When the waitress brought just one plate and placed it in the center of the table, Jonathan understood. Jenna picked up her fork and began to divide the food into three parts. Three small parts. Ivy and Kate picked up their forks and started eating slowly, chewing each piece as if they wanted to make it last forever. Jenna ate even slower. She took only small bites, leaving the majority for her daughters. Lucas stopped eating completely. He put down his fork and kept looking at the table in the corner. "Dad," he whispered. "What is it, son?" "They only have one little plate." Jonathan looked again. The scene was silent, but it spoke volumes. The mother tried to hide it, smiling at her daughters, chatting softly, but he saw it. He saw the way she divided the food, the way the girls ate carefully, knowing that was the only meal of the night. Lucas dropped his fork completely and looked at his father with those eyes full of innocence and kindness that always made Jonathan proud. "Daddy, they just wanted to eat for Christmas." Jonathan felt something tighten in his chest. He looked at his son, then at the table in the corner, and stayed silent for a moment. Lucas didn't wait long. "Dad, can I ask them to eat with us? They only have one little plate." Jonathan took a deep breath. He knew that look. His son had a huge heart. He always had, since he was little. And he was never going to be the kind of father who taught his boy to turn his back on those who needed help. "Go ahead, son. Invite them." Lucas smiled in a way that lit up his whole face. He got up from the chair in such a hurry, he almost knocked over his juice glass and walked over to the table in the corner. Jenna was cutting a piece of potato for Kate when she saw a boy standing by the table. He was smiling in a shy but friendly way, with his hands stuffed in his jeans pockets. "Hi," he said. Ivy and Kate looked at him at the same time. "Hi," Kate replied, curious. "I'm Lucas." He pointed to the table on the other side. "That's my dad. We're eating over there and, well, there's a lot of food. Do you guys want to come eat with us?" Jenna froze. She hadn't expected this. She didn't know what to say. Her first instinct was to refuse. She didn't want to look like a beggar. She didn't want anyone to feel pity for them. Kate looked at her mother with shining eyes. "Mommy, can we?" Ivy looked too, hopeful, but quiet as always. Jenna felt her face heat up. She opened her mouth to say no, but the words didn't come out. Lucas smiled again. "My dad said it's okay. He's nice, I promise." Jenna looked at the table where the man was sitting. He waved slightly, with a gentle and sincere smile. There was no arrogance. There was no judgment, just kindness. She took a deep breath and looked at her daughters. They were waiting for her to say yes. "Okay, let's go." Kate almost jumped out of her chair. Ivy smiled for the first time that night. The three followed Lucas to the table. Jonathan stood up as soon as they approached. "Hi, I'm Jonathan, and this is my son, Lucas." "Jenna," she said softly, feeling exposed. "And these are Ivy and Kate." "Nice to meet you all." Jonathan pulled up extra chairs for them. "Please, sit. There's plenty of room." Jenna sat down slowly, still not knowing how to react. The girls sat next to Lucas, who was already excited. "Do you guys like French fries?" he asked. "We love them," Kate replied, grinning from ear to ear. Jonathan called the waitress and ordered more dishes. Many dishes. Chicken, potatoes, salad, warm bread rolls, juice, dessert. Jenna tried to protest. You don't need to." "I know," Jonathan said calmly, looking into her eyes. "But it's Christmas. And we have plenty of food. Let the girls eat properly." She couldn't argue. Not when Ivy and Kate were already looking at the arriving food with wide eyes, shining with happiness. They ate. They ate for real, without rushing, without fear of running out, without needing to share every little piece. And for the first time in a long time, Jenna saw her daughters truly happy at the table. Lucas talked to them as if they were old friends. He told funny stories about school, made silly jokes, and the girls laughed so much that Jenna felt her eyes sting. Jonathan watched everything in silence, but Jenna could feel that he was paying attention, not in an invasive way, just Present. Thank you, she said suddenly, looking at him. Jonathan turned his face and smiled. No need to thank me. Yes, I do. You can't imagine how much this means. He held her gaze for a second. I think I can imagine. There was something about the way he spoke, something sincere, something that made Jenna feel safe for the first time in a long time. The kids finished eating and started playing with the napkins, folding paper airplanes. Lucas was teaching the girls, and they tried to copy him, laughing when the planes crashed crookedly onto the table. Jonathan and Jenna sat there watching in a comfortable silence. Your son is amazing, Jenna said. Thank you. He has a huge heart. Sometimes it even scares me how much he cares about others. It's a rare gift, Jonathan agreed. And your girls too, they are strong, you can tell. Jenna felt a lump in her throat. They are everything I have. Then you have a lot. She looked at him, and for the first time in years, she felt like someone truly understood. The night was light. It was cozy. It was everything Jenna hadn't expected it to be. There was no judgment. There were no invasive questions, just quiet conversation and children's laughter. When they finally got up to leave, Lucas hugged the girls tightly. Will we see each other again? He asked, hopeful. Kate nodded excitedly. Yes, yes. Ivy just smiled, but it was a true smile. Jonathan walked Jenna to the restaurant door. The icy wind hit their faces as soon as the door opened. Thank you again, she said, holding her daughter's hands firmly. It was a pleasure, really. He hesitated for a second, as if he wanted to say something else, but then continued. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask. Jenna didn't know what to answer, so she just nodded and walked out with the girls into the cold night. As they walked down the street, Kate wouldn't stop talking. Mommy, Lucas is so cool. And his dad too. Can we see them again? Please. Ivy held Jenna's hand in silence, but she was smiling. A small but genuine smile. Jenna looked up at the starry sky and felt something different in her chest. Gratitude, hope, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Jonathan was paying the bill. Lucas was beside him, quiet, thoughtful. Dad, go ahead, son. I liked them. Can we see them again? Jonathan looked at his son and smiled. I liked them too. Lucas smiled back, satisfied, swinging his feet while waiting for his dad to finish. But Jonathan remained thoughtful as they left the restaurant. There was something about that woman's strength, in the way she protected her daughters, in the dignity she carried, even having almost nothing, in the smile she forced to hide the pain. He couldn't stop thinking about her. And on the way home, while Lucas chatted excitedly about the blonde girls with light eyes, Jonathan knew that night had changed something he didn't yet fully understand, but he felt it. And he had a feeling that this wouldn't be their last meeting. The apartment was silent when Jenna woke up. The weak morning light entered through the small living room window, illuminating the peeling walls and the old furniture she had gotten from thrift stores. It was Christmas Day. She got up slowly from the sofa where she had slept. Ivy and Kate were still sleeping in the bedroom, huddled together under the only thick blanket they had. Jenna pulled her coat over her shoulders and went to the kitchen. She opened the cupboard. Half a box of pasta remained, 2 cans of tomato sauce, and a packet of saltine crackers. The fridge had even less, a leftover piece of cheese, 3 eggs, and a pint of milk. Jenna closed the door slowly and rested her forehead against the cold metal. It needs to last until Friday, she whispered to herself. Friday was when the rent was due, and she still didn't have the full amount. She took a deep breath, trying to push away the tightness in her chest, and started making breakfast. She made scrambled eggs with the 3 remaining eggs and toasted a few slices of stale bread. It wasn't much, but it was what they had. When the girls woke up, Jenna was already in the living room, trying to fix the small plastic Christmas tree she had bought last year at a clearance sale. It was crooked and missing some branches, but it was what they had. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Mommy. Kate ran to hug her. Ivy came right behind, still sleepy, and snuggled into her mother's lap. Merry Christmas, my beauties, Jenna said, kissing their foreheads. Kate looked around, searching for something. Mommy, where are the presents? Jenna felt her stomach drop. She had prepared for this moment. She had rehearsed what to say, but it still hurt. "This year is going to be different, my love. We don't have presents under the tree, but you two did something very special for me, remember?" Ivy's eyes went wide. "The cards. That's right. The cards you made with so much love. Those are our Christmas presents this year." Kate frowned, confused. "But we made the cards for you. And I loved every one of them. But you know what else? Today we are going to spend the day together. Just the three of us. We're going to play, watch movies, sing Christmas songs. You don't need presents to make Christmas special." Kate stayed silent for a moment, processing. Then she shrugged. "Okay, but can I have crackers for breakfast?" Jenna smiled, relieved. "You can." The girls ran to the kitchen, and Jenna stood there, alone for a moment, feeling the weight of what she had just done. She hated this. She hated not being able to give her daughters the Christmas they deserved. But at least they had each other, and they had her. After breakfast, the girls got the cards they had made the week before. They were simple. Paper folded in half with colorful drawings made with old colored pencils. Ivy had drawn 3 little dolls holding hands. Kate had made a tree full of hearts. "This one is for you, Mommy," Ivy said, handing over the card with her small hands. Jenna took it and opened it. Inside, in crooked childish handwriting, it was written, "I love you, Mommy. You are the best in the world." Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked rapidly to hold them back. "Thank you, my love. It's the most beautiful gift I've ever received." Kate handed hers over too. "Mine has glitter." There were traces of glue and glitter stuck to the paper. Jenna smiled and hugged them both at the same time. "You two are my greatest gifts. You know that, right?" They nodded, smiling, and ran back to the bedroom to play. Jenna stayed alone in the living room, holding the cards in her hands. She placed them on the little coffee table next to the crooked tree and looked around. The apartment was small, cold. The walls were cracked. The sofa was sagging on one side. The old television barely worked, but inside there was love, a lot of love, and for now, it was all she could offer. The day passed slowly. They watched a Christmas movie playing on broadcast TV, ate pasta with sauce for lunch, and spent the afternoon drawing and singing songs Kate made up on the spot. But when night came and the girls were already sleeping, Jenna sat on the edge of the sofa and faced reality. The food was running out, rent was due in a few days, and she didn't have a job. She picked up her old cell phone and opened the contact list. There were a few numbers of places where she had left her resume in the last few weeks. None had called back. Jenna rubbed her face with her hands, exhausted. "I need to get a job," she whispered to the silence of the apartment. "I need to." It wasn't just a matter of wanting to, it was a matter of survival. She looked at the bedroom where the girls were sleeping. Ivy was hugging Kate, both breathing slowly, peaceful. They trusted her, they believed she would find a way, that everything would be okay, and Jenna couldn't let them down. She got up, went to the kitchen, and grabbed an old notebook she used to track bills. She opened it to a blank page and started writing. Plan. Get a job. Below, she listed everything she needed to do. Print more resumes at the library. Go to places in person. Ask at cafes, markets, shops. Do not give up. She underlined the last sentence twice. Do not give up, she repeated aloud. Jenna closed the notebook and looked out the window. The city was lit up with Christmas lights. The houses around had decorated trees in the windows. Families gathered. Laughter. Warmth. She wanted that for her daughters, and she was going to get it. Somehow she was going to get it. Jenna went back to the sofa, lay down and pulled the thin blanket over her body. She closed her eyes, but her mind kept racing. Tomorrow would be a new day, and she was going to fight. She was going to search. She was going to knock on every door necessary, because Ivy and Kate deserved more than this. And she was going to give them that more. Even if it was the last thing she did. 2 days after Christmas, Jenna woke up with a firm decision in her mind. Today she was going to leave the house. She was going to look for a job. She was going to knock on every door necessary until she got something. But she also knew she couldn't leave the girls locked in the house all day. They had already spent too much time inside that cold, small apartment, staring at the same four peeling walls, so she had an idea. "Girls, put on your coats. We're going out." Ivy and Kate lifted their heads at the same time, eyes shining with excitement. "Where to, Mummy?" Kate asked, already running to grab her coat hanging on the kitchen chair. "Downtown. We're going to see the Christmas decorations." The two cheered as if they had won the lottery. Jenna smiled, but inside she felt the weight of what she was actually going to do. While the girls were distracted by the lights and decorated windows, she would take the opportunity to go into every cafe, shop and market she found. The bus was full, packed with people returning from the holiday, but they managed to get a seat near the window. Kate was glued to the cold glass, pointing at everything she saw. Ivy sat quietly next to Jenna, holding her mother's hand firmly. When they got off downtown, the city was beautiful. The streets were decorated with white lights that intertwined on the lampposts like glowing webs. There were huge trees covered in gold and silver ornaments swaying in the cold wind. Christmas music played in the open shops. The smell of roasted chestnuts came from a cart on the corner, mixed with the sweet aroma of hot chocolate. "Look, Mummy. Look how it shines." Kate pointed to a window display full of illuminated stars blinking in rhythm. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Jenna said, trying to sound excited. Ivy squeezed her hand. "It's magical." Jenna smiled and kissed the top of her daughter's head. "It is, sweetie. Very magical." They walked slowly through the busy streets, and Jenna let the girls stop at every window to admire the mechanical snowmen, the decorative reindeer, and the miniature trains. But her eyes were alert for something else. She was looking for help-wanted signs, vacancy notices, anything that indicated an opportunity. So after a few minutes, she saw a small cafe on the corner. It looked cozy, with wooden tables and a facade painted dark green. "Girls, wait right here close to the window, okay? Mommy is going to pop in there real quick." "Okay?" Kate was already distracted looking at the colorful cookies in the window, decorated with red and green icing. Jenna took a deep breath and entered the cafe. The smell of fresh coffee and warm bread invaded her nostrils. There were few people inside. She approached the counter, where a middle-aged woman was organizing cups. "Excuse me, are you hiring?" The woman looked at her and made a face of pity. "No, honey, we're already fully staffed." "Are you sure? I can do anything. Wash dishes, clean tables, work the counter." "I'm sorry, we really don't have an opening right now." Jenna nodded, trying to hide her disappointment. "That's okay, thank you." She went out and returned to the girls. Her chest was starting to tighten, but she wasn't going to give up. They kept walking. Jenna went into a women's clothing store. A young saleswoman attended her with a friendly smile. "Sorry, we're not hiring right now. Maybe in January when business picks up." Jenna thanked her and left. She went into a small market. The manager didn't even let her finish speaking. "We don't have openings, sorry." She went into a brightly lit pharmacy. The answer came accompanied by a smile, but firm. "Unfortunately, we aren't in need at the moment." A stationery store. "We only hire in January." Another clothing store. "We don't have open positions." A shoe store. "We already have enough staff." With every no, Jenna felt the weight in her chest increase, but she kept smiling for the girl, who were enchanted by the lights around them. "Can Mommy look at that giant snowman?" Kate pulled Jenna's hand, pointing to an inflatable sculpture swaying in the wind. "It's huge, isn't it?" Jenna replied, forcing enthusiasm. Ivy noticed. She always noticed when something was wrong. The girl looked at Jenna with those light eyes and squeezed her hand tightly. Jenna took a deep breath and kept walking. She went into more places: an electronics store, a bookstore, a flower shop, an Italian restaurant. Everyone said no, always politely, sometimes with pity, but always no. When she left the last place, a small snack bar on the corner, she had to stop and lean against the cold wall. Her legs were tired. Her heart was tired. "Mommy, are you okay?" Ivy asked, touching her arm gently. "I am, sweetie, just tired." Kate didn't notice anything. She was busy looking at a fountain decorated with blue and white lights in the square ahead. The water glistened under the weak afternoon sun. "Can I go near there, Mommy?" "You can, but stay where I can see you." Kate ran off, and Ivy stayed beside Jenna, still holding her hand. "We're going to be okay, Mommy," the girl said softly, with a certainty that broke Jenna's heart. Jenna looked at her daughter and felt her eyes sting. How could a 5-year-old child be so strong? "I know, my love. We always are." While Kate played near the fountain, Jenna looked around. There were so many shops, so many places, but none seemed to have space for her. That was when she heard a familiar voice. "Ivy? Kate?" Jenna turned her head and saw Lucas running toward them, with a huge smile on his face. Behind him, Jonathan came walking with his hands in his pockets, also smiling. Kate heard Lucas's voice and ran back, almost tripping. "Lucas!" The three hugged like old friends. Lucas laughed loudly. Kate jumped with joy, and even Ivy was smiling openly. Jonathan approached Jenna with calm steps. "What a coincidence, right?" Jenna smiled, but she was too tired to mask it. "Yeah, what a coincidence." He noticed. Jonathan always noticed. "Is everything okay with you?" She hesitated. Part of her wanted to say yes, but another part, the exhausted part that had heard no so many times, couldn't lie anymore. Actually, not really. Jonathan frowned. "What happened?" Jenna looked at the kids, who were playing together near the fountain, laughing loudly. Then she looked back at Jonathan. "I'm looking for a job. I spent the whole morning going into shops, cafes, markets, pharmacies, and no one is hiring. Everyone says the same thing as come back in January. We don't have openings. We're already fully staffed. But I can't wait until January. I need something now. Rent is due next week and I still don't have the money. Food is running out." Her voice trembled, and she hated it. She hated looking weak. Jonathan didn't say anything for a moment. He just looked at her with that calm and understanding expression. "I'm sorry, Jenna. I know it can't be easy." "It's not," she admitted, "but I'm going to keep trying. I have no choice." He nodded slowly. "You are amazing, you know. The way you take care of the girls, how you don't give up. It's admirable." Jenna felt her face heat up. No one had said something like that to her in a long time. "Thank you," she said softly. Lucas came running up to Jonathan, holding Ivy and Kate's hands. "Dad, can I invite Ivy and Kate to play at our house?" Jenna opened her mouth to refuse, but Jonathan answered first. "Of course, son. That would be great." He looked at Jenna. "If you want to, of course, no pressure." Jenna looked at the girls. They had their eyes shining with hope. Kate was already jumping, and even Ivy looked excited. She didn't want to accept, but the girls deserved a bit of joy, and she was too tired to refuse. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Absolutely," Jonathan replied. Jenna took a deep breath. "Then, okay, thank you." The children cheered loudly, and Lucas already started telling them what they were going to do. "Sass, I have a ton of toys, and we can watch a movie. And there's popcorn and games." Jonathan laughed. "Easy, Lucas. One thing at a time." They walked to Jonathan's car. It was a nice car, but not flashy. Black, clean, spacious. Jenna noticed that. He had money, but he didn't make a point of showing it. On the way, Jonathan and Jenna talked while the kids ran ahead. He asked about their Christmas, and Jenna was honest. She told him about the handmade cards, about the shared noodles, about how she had tried to make the day special. Jonathan listened without judgment. "You did the best you could," he said, "and I'm sure they will remember that for the rest of their lives. Not the presents they didn't get, but the love you gave." Jenna felt a knot in her throat. "I hope so." When they arrived at Jonathan's house, the girls gaped. It was a large house, with a well-kept garden and decorative lights still lit. But it wasn't ostentatious, it was cozy. "Wow," Kate whispered. Lucas grabbed their hands. "Come on. I'll show you my room." The three children ran up the stairs, and Jenna stood at the entrance. "Come in," Jonathan said with a smile. "Make yourself at home." She walked in slowly, looking around. The house was beautiful, but not cold. There were photos on the walls, toys scattered about, a throw blanket tossed on the sofa. It was a house where someone actually lived. "Want some coffee?" Jonathan offered. "I'd love some." They went to the kitchen, and Jonathan brewed coffee while Jenna sat on a stool. She could hear the children's laughter coming from upstairs. They seem happy, Jonathan commented. They do, Jenna smiled. Thank you for this. No need to thank me. Lucas is happy too. He hasn't stopped talking about them since that night. Jenna looked at him. You're a good father. Jonathan paused, surprised. I try to be. You are, she insisted. You can tell. He poured the coffee and sat down next to her. They stayed in silence for a moment, just drinking. Jenna felt comfortable. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she needed to be on guard. She could just be. If you need help with anything, Jonathan said suddenly, you can talk to me, seriously. Jenna looked at him, surprised. Why? We barely know each other. He shrugged. Sometimes we just need to help. Doesn't need a reason. She didn't know what to answer, so she just nodded, feeling something warm in her chest. Upstairs, the children played as if they had always been friends. Lucas showed his cars to Kate, who made engine noises. Ivy was on the bed, hugging a teddy bear Lucas had given her. You can keep him, Lucas said. Ivy's eyes went wide. Really? Really? I have lots. Ivy hugged the teddy bear, smiling in a way she rarely smiled. Kate looked at Lucas. You are the best friend in the world. Lucas smiled. You guys too. Downstairs, Jenna and Jonathan kept talking, and for the first time in a long time, Jenna felt that maybe things could get better. Maybe all was not lost. Maybe she had found someone she could trust. The hours passed like minutes in that house. Upstairs, in Lucas's spacious room, the three children were completely immersed in a world of games and pure imagination. The floor was covered with scattered toys, cars of all sizes, colorful building blocks, dolls, board games, soft plushies. Lucas opened the large light wood closet and started pulling out organized boxes. Look, this is my racetrack set. We can build the whole thing. He placed the heavy box on the floor and started snapping the colorful plastic pieces together. Kate threw herself on the floor next to him, her blue eyes shining with excitement. Can I help? Sure. Take this part here and snap it into this other one. Ivy stayed quieter, observing attentively from the edge of the bed. Lucas noticed and grabbed a smaller box from a shelf. Ivy, do you like to draw? The girl nodded shyly, her light eyes fixed on him. Then look. He opened the box carefully and revealed colored pencils, markers, crayons, colorful paper of all kinds. You can use whatever you want. I have plenty of stuff. Ivy took a white sheet of paper and some pencils carefully, as if she were holding something precious and fragile. She sat near the sunlit window and started drawing with soft strokes. Kate and Lucas finished assembling the track with all the curves and slopes and started making the cars race at high speed, laughing loudly every time one of them derailed or took a curve too fast and went flying. Look, Mommy always says we have to share, Kate said suddenly, looking at Lucas with childish seriousness. But we almost never have stuff to share. Lucas stopped pushing the car and looked at her with those sincere and kind eyes. Then now we share mine. Everything that is mine is yours too. You can play with whatever you want. Kate smiled in a way that lit up her whole face. Really, we're friends now. Ivy looked up from the drawing she was making and looked at Lucas with silent, deep gratitude. They spent the entire afternoon playing non-stop. They built an entire detailed city with building blocks of all colors. They put on an improvised theater show with the plushies, inventing funny voices and crazy stories. They drew together, sitting on the floor with papers scattered around. They watched a cartoon wrapped in soft blankets on the fluffy rug. Kate laughed endlessly, giggling loudly. Ivy smiled constantly, something rare and precious for her. Lucas was radiant, completely happy to have company, happy to share everything he had. It was a magical afternoon. Simple Pete, but absolutely magical. Downstairs, Jonathan had finished washing the coffee mugs and was now leaning against the kitchen doorframe, looking at Jenna. She was sitting on the comfortable living room sofa, hands clasped in her lap, looking at the white-painted ceiling as if trying not to let tears fall. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, carefully. Jenna wiped her eyes quickly with the back of her hand and forced a trembling smile. "I am. It's just that I don't remember the last time I heard them laugh like that, with such freedom." Jonathan crossed the room and sat next to her on the sofa. maintaining a respectful distance. They are amazing kids, Jenna. Ivy is so observant, so sensitive. Kate is pure energy and contagious joy. They are my whole life, Jenna said, her voice shaking slightly. I would give anything for them. Absolutely anything. I know. You can see it in your every look. Jenna turned her face to him. Thank you for this. For letting them have fun, for opening your home, for not judging us. I would never judge you, Jenna. You are doing the best you can in an extremely difficult situation. That is no shame, it's pure courage. She felt her eyes fill with tears again. This time, she couldn't hold back. The tears rolled silently down her face, leaving wet tracks. Jonathan said nothing for a moment. He just took the box of tissues from the small table and offered it to her gently. Sorry, Jenna said, taking a tissue and wiping her face. I didn't want to look weak in front of you. You don't look weak. You look human. And that's beautiful. She let out a wet laugh, half crying, half laughing. I just wanted to give them a better life. They deserve so much. So much more than I can offer. And they will have it, Jonathan said with firm conviction, because they have you, and you won't give up on them. I know you won't. Jenna looked at him, and for the first time in a long time, she felt someone truly understood. Someone saw her daily struggle, saw the constant effort, saw the love impossible to measure. Upstairs, the laughter continued echoing. Kate shouted something excited about winning a race. Lucas replied laughing and disputing the result. Ivy said something softly that made the other two explode in laughter. Jonathan stood up slowly and went to the large living room window, watching the garden outside bathed in the golden afternoon light. But his mind was somewhere else entirely. He felt something different, something he hadn't felt in a long time. That house had always been too silent, just him and Lucas. Something was always missing that he couldn't identify. It always seemed incomplete, despite all the space and comfort. But today, with the genuine laughter of children echoing through the hallways, with Jenna sitting on the living room sofa, the house seemed alive, truly alive. It felt like a real home, not just a beautiful building. He looked over his shoulder at Jenna, who was still wiping her eyes carefully, and felt his chest warm. She was strong in a way few people were. She was brave even when she was scared. She was an absolutely amazing mother, and he wanted to help, not out of pity, not out of obligation or guilt, but because something in him said that those people, Jenna, Ivy, Kate, should be part of his and Lucas's life. They should be there. Later, when the sun began to set, tinting the sky orange and pink, and the golden light entered softly through the windows, Jonathan called the children for a snack. They came running down the wooden stairs, still laughing and talking loudly about the next game. Jonathan had prepared simple but neat sandwiches, chopped fruit in a colorful bowl, cold juice and some crunchy cookies. The children sat at the large kitchen table and ate with gusto and appetite. Kate swung her short legs under the chair, talking non-stop about absolutely everything they had done during the afternoon. Ivy ate slowly, but there was a soft, constant smile on her face. Lucas was sitting between the two, happy in a way Jenna had never seen any child be before. Jenna watched everything from the kitchen door, leaning against the frame, her heart tight with gratitude she could barely process. When the children finished eating and wiped their mouths with napkins, Lucas looked at his father with hopeful eyes. "Dad, can they stay a little longer? Just a little bit more?" Jonathan looked at Jenna, leaving the decision to her. "If their mom lets them." Jenna checked the time on her old cell phone, which already had some cracks in the screen. It was getting late, the sky darkening outside, but she didn't have the heart to take that pure joy away from the girls. "Half an hour more? Okay?" "Yes," Kate cheered, jumping off the chair, and the three ran back to the room, dashing up the stairs. Jenna sat slowly at the kitchen table, exhausted but deeply happy. Jonathan sat in the chair opposite her. "Thank you," she said again, her voice full of genuine emotion. "You can't imagine what this means to me. To them, this day will stay in their memories forever." "I think I can imagine," Jonathan said softly, looking into her eyes. "And you can bring them here whenever you want, really. Lucas loves the company." "And I also really like having you guys here." Jenna looked at him, and something passed between them, something silent but completely real. Trust, connection, something that was starting to grow slowly. When the inevitable time came to leave, the girls came down the stairs dragging their feet, clearly not wanting to leave that magical place. "Can we come back?" Kate asked urgently, holding Lucas's hand tightly. "Whenever you want," Jonathan replied, smiling for real. Ivy hugged Lucas with surprising strength, still holding the brown teddy bear he had given her. "Thank you for everything." Lucas smiled with pride. "We're friends now. Real friends forever." Jenna put the coats on the girls carefully and turned to Jonathan one last time. "Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. Whenever you need, Jenna, I'm here. You can count on me." She nodded, feeling her eyes sting again with emotion, and walked out the door with the girls, one on each side. Jonathan and Lucas stood at the front door, waving until they disappeared completely around the corner lit by street lamps. Lucas looked at his father seriously. "I like them, Dad." "A lot." "Me too, son. Me too." And as he slowly closed the heavy door, Jonathan realized that that afternoon had changed something profound in him. Something he didn't know was missing until he finally found it. 3 days after the magical afternoon at Jonathan's house, Jenna decided to take the girls to the park. It wasn't very far from the apartment, and it was free. The girls needed fresh air, space to run. The park was full that Saturday afternoon. Kids ran across the lawns, parents pushed swings, dogs barked happily. The sun was weak but present, and the wind blew cold through the trees. "Mommy, can I go on the swing?" Kate asked, already pulling Ivy by the hand. "You can, but stay where I can see you." The two ran off, their blonde hair flying in the wind. Jenna sat on a wooden bench near the playground, watching the girls. Ivy sat on the swing and started swinging slowly. Kate was already climbing the slide. It was a simple afternoon, but it was good. "Jenna!" She turned her head quickly and saw Jonathan walking toward her, with Lucas beside him. Both were smiling. "Jonathan!" She stood up, surprised. "Show us, what a coincidence." "Looks like we're destined to meet," he joked. Lucas had already seen the girls and took off running. "Ivy! Kate!" The two looked at the same time and shouted his name. Lucas ran to them, and the three hugged as if they were siblings who hadn't seen each other in weeks. Jonathan sat on the bench next to Jenna, watching the children with a smile. "They're inseparable now." "Seems so," Jenna said, smiling too. The three children ran together to the open field, playing tag. Lucas pretended he was going to catch Kate, who screamed, laughing. Ivy ran after the two, smiling in a way Jenna rarely saw. "They're happy," Jenna said softly, more to herself than to him. Jonathan looked at her. "And you? Are you happy?" The question caught Jenna by surprise. She stayed silent for a moment, watching the girls. I'm trying," she admitted. "But it's hard. There are days I wake up and don't know if I'm going to make it. Don't know if I'll have money for food and for rent and for anything. And I get scared, very scared." Jonathan said nothing. He just listened. "I'm afraid of failing them," Jenna continued, her voice trembling. "I'm afraid that one day they'll look at me and see that I wasn't enough, that I couldn't give what they deserved." "Jenna," Jonathan said gently, "you already give everything they need. Love, dedication, presence. That's what matters. But love doesn't pay rent. Love doesn't fill the fridge. No. But love builds their character. And look at them." He pointed to the girls and who were now playing hide and seek with Lucas. "They are happy because they have you." Jenna felt her eyes sting. "I just wanted to be better. To be more." "You already are. You are strong, Jenna. Stronger than you imagine." She looked at him, and there was so much sincerity in his eyes that she almost believed it. The wind blew strong suddenly, freezing, and Jenna shrank a little, crossing her arms. Jonathan noticed immediately. Without saying anything, he took off the leather jacket he was wearing and placed it over her shoulders. "Jonathan, you don't need to." "I know, but I want to." The jacket was still warm from his body. Jenna pulled the edges, feeling the warmth envelop her. It was a small gesture, simple, but it meant so much. "Thank you," she said softly. They sat in silence for a few minutes, just watching the kids. Lucas had started teaching the girls how to do cartwheels on the grass. Kate tried and fell laughing. Ivy watched intently before trying too. "They look like siblings," Jenna commented. "They do," Jonathan agreed, and there was something in his tone of voice, something Jenna couldn't completely identify. After a while, Lucas shouted, "Dad, come play with us!" Jonathan looked at Jenna. Shall we?" She hesitated, but then saw the girls' faces, hopeful, and smiled. "Let's go." They stood up and went to the children. Lucas was organizing a game of freeze dance, statues. "When I say statue, everyone stops, okay?" The children nodded, excited. 1, 2, 3. Statue. Everyone froze. Kate was in the middle of a jump and almost fell trying to balance. Ivy stood still with one foot in the air. Jonathan struck a ridiculous pose that made everyone laugh. "Dad, you moved," Lucas shouted. "Did not." "Did too." They laughed together, and the game continued. Jenna participated too, running with the girls, laughing in a way she hadn't laughed in a long time. For a moment, everything seemed normal, as if they were a real family, as if that were an ordinary weekend day. When the kids finally got tired, they went back to the bench. The 3 children sat on the grass near them, sharing a bottle of water Jonathan had brought. Jenna watched everything with a tight heart. That was so simple, so normal, but to her, it was everything. "How you have a beautiful family," Jonathan said suddenly. Jenna looked at him, surprised. "Thank you, Lucas is amazing too." "He is, but he's happier now, since he met you guys." There was something in the way he spoke, something that made Jenna's heart race. "Jonathan, I know we met a short time ago," he interrupted gently. But I feel as if you guys were always meant to be in my life, in our life." Jenna didn't know what to answer. She just looked at him, feeling something warm in her chest. "I don't want to pressure you," Jonathan continued, "but I want you to know you can count on me for anything. I'm here." "Why?" Jenna asked, her voice trembling. "Why do you care so much about us?" Jonathan stayed silent for a moment, thinking, then he looked at her with absolute sincerity. "Because when I look at you, I see someone who deserves help, someone who deserves support. And when I look at your girls, I see the joy that was missing in my son's life, in my life." Jenna felt the tears rise again, but this time they were different tears, not of sadness, but of hope. "Thank you," she whispered. Jonathan placed his hand over hers on the bench just for a second, a light touch, but significant. Always. The children came running back, interrupting the moment. Lucas was talking about a bird he had seen. Kate talked about wanting to go back on the swing. Ivy just smiled, holding Jenna's hand. They stayed at the park until the sun began to set, tinting the sky orange and pink. When the time finally came to leave, the children said goodbye with long hugs. "Will we see each other soon?" Lucas asked. "For sure," Jenna replied, looking at Jonathan. He smiled. "As for sure." On the way back home, Kate held Jenna's hand and wouldn't stop talking about the afternoon. "Mommy, it was the best day. It really was, my love." Ivy was quiet, but there was a smile on her face. And Jenna, for the first time in a long time, felt that maybe she wasn't so alone after all. Maybe she had found someone who really cared. Someone she could trust. 2 days after the meeting in the park, Jenna's phone rang. It was an unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Hello? Jenna? It's Jonathan." She felt her heart race. "Hi, how are you?" "Good. Look, I was thinking, do you and the girls want to come have dinner here at my house tomorrow? Nothing formal. Just a quiet dinner." Jenna hesitated for a second, but then she heard Kate shout in the background, "Is it Lucas? Mommy? Can we go?" She smiled. "We'd love to." "Great. Tomorrow, 7 o'clock? We'll be there." The next day, Jenna dressed the girls in the best they had. It wasn't much, but it was clean and presentable. She herself wore a simple blouse and a pair of jeans that were a few years old, but still fit. When they arrived at Jonathan's house, Lucas was already waiting at the door, practically jumping with excitement. "You came?" Ivy and Kate ran to hug him, and the three went inside together, already talking loudly. Jonathan appeared at the door, smiling. He was more casual today, in a simple shirt and chinos. "Welcome." "Thank you for having us again," Jenna said. "The pleasure is all mine. Come in." The house smelled of homemade food, something with garlic, tomatoes, and herbs. Jenna's stomach rumbled without permission, and she felt her face heat up. Jonathan laughed softly. "Dinner is almost ready. Do the kids want to play a bit first?" Lucas was already pulling the girls to the upper floor. "Come on, I built a blanket fort." The three disappeared up the stairs, leaving Jenna and Jonathan alone. "Need help with anything?" Jenna offered. "Actually, everything is already done. It just needs to finish cooking. But you can keep me company in the kitchen if you want." "I'd love to." They went to the spacious kitchen. Jonathan was making pasta with homemade sauce and grilled chicken. There was a salad ready and garlic bread in the oven. "You cook well," Jenna commented, impressed. "I learned out of necessity. When Lucas came into my life, I couldn't even fry an egg properly." "But you learn." Jenna sat on the stool near the counter, watching him stir the sauce. "Jonathan, can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "How do you do it, raising a son alone and seeming so calm?" Jonathan stopped stirring the sauce and looked at her. "I'm not always calm. There are days when I also don't know if I'm doing it right, if I'm giving enough to him. But we do the best we can, right?" "Yeah, we do." They stayed in silence for a moment. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was comfortable, natural. "Jenna," Jonathan said suddenly, "can I ask you something too?" "You can." "The girl's father, is he in their lives?" Jenna felt her chest tighten. She knew this question would come sometime. She took a deep breath. "No, he abandoned me when he found out I was pregnant." Jonathan stopped completely what he was doing and turned to her, attentive. Jenna continued, her voice trembling a little. "We had been dating for a few months. I thought it was serious, that we had a future. But when I told him I was pregnant and with twins, he disappeared, literally, moved to another city, blocked my number, never wanted to know anything again. I'm so sorry, Jenna. I was left alone, completely alone. I spent the entire pregnancy working 2 jobs, trying to save money. When they were born, I lost both jobs because I couldn't manage, and since then it's been a constant struggle." She wiped a tear that escaped. "Sorry. I didn't want to." "Don't apologize. Never apologize for feeling." Jonathan turned off the stove and came to sit next to her. "After that, I never trusted any man again," Jenna admitted. "I built a wall so high no one could get through, because I couldn't afford to trust and be abandoned again, not for me, but for the girls." Jonathan stayed silent for a long moment. Then he took a deep breath. "Jenna, I need to tell you something too." She looked at him, curious. "I've always been rich," he began. "Very rich. I inherited my family's fortune when my parents died. I have companies, investments, properties. I don't talk about it because money changes the way people look at you." Jenna frowned, not completely understanding where he was going with this. Jonathan continued. 7 years ago, I was dating a woman. I thought she loved me. We'd been together for almost a year, but she didn't know how much money I had. I hid it from her because I wanted to be sure she loved me for me, not for the money." He paused, his voice becoming heavier. "One day, she showed up at my door, the real house, the mansion, and she saw everything. She saw the cars, the size of the property, everything. I thought she would be happy, but she acted strange." Jenna was completely focused on him now. "A week later, she disappeared. Wouldn't answer calls, wouldn't answer texts. I was desperate, until one day early in the morning I heard crying at the door." Jonathan took a deep breath, his eyes getting moist. It was a baby, wrapped in a blanket, inside a basket, and there was a note. "Lucas," Jenna whispered. "Lucas," he confirmed. The note said, "This is your son. I can't take care of him. You have enough money for that. Nothing else. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Just that." Jenna covered her mouth with her hand, shocked. "I took a DNA test," Jonathan continued. "Lucas is my son biologically. She got pregnant and hid it from me. And when she saw I was rich, she thought I would be an absent father who would just send money. So she abandoned her own son at my door and ran away. Oh my God, Jonathan. I tried to find her, but she disappeared completely, changed her name, city, life. And I was left with Lucas, a baby I didn't know existed, but the moment I held him in my arms, I knew he was mine, and that I was going to take care of him for the rest of my life. Jenna was crying now, not out of sadness, but out of deep compassion. I raised Lucas alone since then, Jonathan said. Learned to change diapers, make bottles, deal with colic, fevers, everything. It wasn't easy, but I never regretted it. Not for a second. He looked at Jenna with intensity. That's why I understand you. I know what it is to be abandoned by someone who should love you. I know what it is to raise a child alone. I know what it is to be afraid of not being enough. Jenna was sobbing now. Jonathan grabbed a tissue and offered it to her. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry. No, Jenna said, wiping her face. I needed to hear that. I needed to know that I'm not alone in this pain. Jonathan held her hand gently. You are not alone, Jenna. Not one bit. They stayed like that for a moment, hands intertwined, gazes connected. There was something passing between them, something deep, something real. "And you are an amazing man," Jenna said softly. "Good, sincere, honest, with a huge heart. I've never met anyone like that." "And you are an amazing woman," Jonathan replied. "Strong, brave, dedicated. Your girls are very lucky to have you." Jenna smiled through the tears. "And Lucas is very lucky to have you." Upstairs, they heard the children's laughter. The sound was pure, innocent, happy. Jonathan let go of her hand and turned back to the stove. "I think we better finish this dinner before they come down starving." Jenna laughed, wiping the last traces of tears. "Good idea." They worked side by side in the kitchen, Jonathan finishing the sauce, Jenna setting the table. There was a harmony between them now, an understanding. When the children came down, the table was set. Plates full of pasta with sauce, golden chicken, fresh salad, crispy garlic bread. "Wow," Kate exclaimed. "Looks like a restaurant." "It's better than a restaurant," Lucas said, proud. "It's my dad's food." They sat down together, the three children on one side, Jenna and Jonathan on the other. It was a domestic scene. Simple, but beautiful. During dinner, the conversations flowed naturally. The children talked about the fort they had built. Lucas told funny stories. Ivy and Kate laughed, more relaxed than Jenna had seen them in a long time, and every now and then Jenna and Jonathan exchanged glances. Long glances. Silent. That said more than any word could say. There was something growing there. Something neither of them had the courage to name yet, but it was there, real, palpable. After dinner, Jonathan served ice cream for dessert. The children ate with enthusiasm, getting it all over their faces. When the time came to leave and the girls hugged Lucas tightly, "Thank you for dinner," Ivy said softly. "Any time you want," Jonathan replied, smiling. At the door, Jenna turned to him. "Thank you for everything, for the food, for the conversation, for trusting me. Thank you for trusting me too." They looked at each other for a long moment. There was so much unsaid there, so much feeling starting to sprout, but neither of them was ready to verbalize it yet. "Now good night, Jonathan." "Good night, Jenna." She left with the girls, and as they walked down the cold street under the streetlights, Jenna felt her heart warm. For the first time since she could remember, she felt real hope. Not just hope of surviving, but hope of truly living, and maybe, just maybe, of not being alone anymore. 4 days after dinner at Jonathan's house, Jenna was in the kitchen trying to make the little she had stretch. 2 cans of beans, half a bag of rice. That was it. She sighed, resting her hands on the old sink. Rent had been due yesterday. She managed to pay it, but now she had almost nothing. That was when she heard the doorbell ring. Jenna frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone. She went to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Jonathan, and he was carrying bags. She opened the door quickly, surprised. "Jonathan, what are you doing here?" He smiled. "Can I come in?" Sure. She stepped aside, and he entered carrying several grocery bags. The girls were in the living room, drawing on the floor. When they saw Jonathan, their little faces lit up. "Jonathan!" Kate ran to him. Ivy stood up too, smiling. "Hi girls, how are you?" "Good! What did you bring?" Kate looked at the bags with curiosity. Jonathan put the bags on the small coffee table and looked at Jenna. "I brought some things, food mostly." Jenna looked at the bags and then at him. "Jonathan, you didn't have to. I know, but I wanted to." She approached and looked inside the bags. There was everything: fruit, vegetables, rice, beans, pasta, sauce, chicken, milk, bread, butter, cereal, cookies. Things she hadn't been able to buy for weeks. Her eyes filled with tears immediately. "Jonathan, this is too much. I can't accept it." He approached her and spoke softly, firmly. "It's not charity, Jenna. It's because I care about you guys." She looked at him, tears coming down. "But, no buts. Let me help, please." Jenna covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. Jonathan put a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. It's okay to accept help." The girls watched, quiet. Ivy approached and hugged her mother around the waist. Kate did the same on the other side. "Don't cry, Mommy," Kate said. "Jonathan is our friend." Jenna laughed through her tears and hugged her daughters. "I know, my love, I know." Jonathan started putting the groceries away in the small kitchen. Jenna followed him, still wiping her eyes. "You can't imagine how much this means." "I imagine, and I want to do more." She looked at him, confused. "More?" Jonathan looked around the apartment. The sink was dripping. One of the faucets was loose. The cupboard door was falling off. The living room window didn't close properly. "Do you have tools here?" "I have an old box under the sink." "Why?" "Because I'm going to fix some things." "Jonathan, no need. Jenna?" He looked into her eyes. "Let me help, please." She hesitated, but then nodded. "Okay." Jonathan took the toolbox and started working. First, he fixed the loose faucet. Then he adjusted the cupboard door that wouldn't close right. He went to the living room and fixed the window that was letting the cold wind in. The girls followed him everywhere, fascinated. "Do you know how to fix everything?" Kate asked, impressed. "Not everything, but I learned some things. When Lucas was little, I had to learn to do a bit of everything." Ivy stayed quiet but watched his every move attentively. Jonathan worked for nearly 2 hours. He fixed the dripping sink, tightened the loose screws on the kitchen chair, even fixed the bedroom doorknob that was loose. Jenna watched everything, still in disbelief. No one had ever done this for her. No one had ever cared enough. When Jonathan finally finished, he put the tools away and washed his hands in the newly fixed sink. "Done. I think that should help a bit." Jenna was leaning against the kitchen door, eyes shining. "Jonathan, I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. No one ever did something like this for me." He dried his hands and approached her. "Then it's time someone did." They stood there, looking at each other. There was something in the air, something neither of them knew how to name yet. Kate interrupted the moment. "Jonathan, do you want to draw with us?" He smiled. "I'd love to." They sat on the living room floor, Jonathan, Jenna, Ivy, and Kate. Papers scattered, colored pencils, markers. The girls drew houses, flowers, rainbows. Jonathan drew a big house with 4 people in front. Kate looked. "Who are they?" Jonathan hesitated. It's a family." Ivy looked at the drawing attentively. Then she grabbed a pencil and started drawing too. She drew 5 people holding hands. When she finished and she showed it to Jonathan, "Look, it's us." Jonathan looked at the drawing. There were 5 people. 3 smaller ones, 2 bigger ones. He felt something tighten in his chest. Jenna saw the drawing too and felt her eyes sting again. They spent the whole afternoon together, drawing, talking, laughing. Jonathan's presence brought something that had been missing for a long time in that apartment: calm, security, hope. When the time came for him to leave, the girls hugged him tight. "Can you come back?" Kate asked. "Whenever you want," Jonathan replied. At the door, Jenna walked him out. "Thank you for everything, for the food, for the repairs, for the company." "It was a pleasure, really." They looked at each other for a long moment. There was so much unsaid there, so much feeling growing. "Jonathan, Jenna began, her voice trembling. "Why do you do this? Why do you care so much about us?" He took a step closer. "Because when I look at you guys, I see what I've always wanted to have. A real family. Not just me and Lucas, but something bigger. Something complete." Jenna felt her heart race. "Jonathan, I don't want to pressure you," he said quickly. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going to turn my back, no matter what happens." She couldn't answer. She just nodded, eyes full of tears. Jonathan smiled softly. "Good night, Jenna. Good night." She closed the door slowly and leaned against it, heart racing. Inside, the girls were already looking at the drawings they had made. "Mommy," Ivy called. "Do you like Jonathan?" Jenna approached and sat on the floor with them. "I do, sweetie, very much." "He's nice," Kate said. "I wish he would stay here forever." Ivy agreed, hugging the teddy bear Lucas had given her. "Me too." Jenna looked at her daughters and felt something change inside her. She had spent so much time building walls, so much time protecting herself, but Jonathan was tearing down those walls, one brick at a time, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. For the first time, she wanted to let it happen. The day after Jonathan's visit, Jenna received a message from him. "Good morning, busy today," she replied. "Not much. Why?" "Need your help with something. Can I stop by?" Jenna frowned, curious, but replied, "Sure." An hour later, Jonathan was sitting at the small living room table with a laptop open in front of him. "What is this?" Jenna asked, sitting next to him. "We're going to build your resume." She widened her eyes. "My resume?" "Yes, a real resume, professional. That shows everything you know how to do." "Jonathan, I don't know if..." "Trust me." They spent the entire morning working together. Jonathan asked questions. Jenna answered. He typed, organized, formatted. "How long did you work in restaurants?" 2 years. "What did you do there?" "Everything, service, cashier, cleaning, organizing inventory." "Perfect. That shows versatility," he continued typing. When they finished, Jenna looked at the screen and couldn't believe it. It looked professional, it looked good. "Jonathan, this looks amazing." "Because you are amazing. Just needed to put it on paper." He printed several copies on a portable printer he had brought and handed them to her. "Now we need to prepare you for interviews." "Interviews?" "Yes, we're going to practice." Jenna laughed, nervous. "Practice interviewing?" "Exactly. Come, sit here." They spent the whole afternoon simulating interviews. Jonathan asked questions. Jenna answered. At first, she was nervous, stuttered, looked away. "Look at me when you answer." Jonathan guided patiently. "And breathe deep before speaking. You know the answers. You just need to believe in that." They repeated it several times. And each time, Jenna became more confident. "Why do you want to work here?" "Because I am dedicated, I learn quickly, and I am looking for a place where I can grow and contribute." Jonathan smiled. "Perfect." The next day, he showed up again, this time with bags of clothes. "What is this?" Jenna asked. "Clothes for the interview." "Jonathan, no." "Jenna, please. Let me do this." She sighed and opened the bags. There were black dress pants, an elegant but simple white blouse, a grey blazer, and even comfortable flats. "Try it on," Jonathan asked. Jenna went to the bedroom and changed clothes. When she came out, Jonathan stood still, looking at her. "You look beautiful." She looked down, shy. "Really? Very really. You look professional, confident." The girls came out of the bedroom and saw their mother. "Mommy, you look pretty," Kate shouted. Ivy smiled and waved. Jenna looked at herself in the small living room mirror. She barely recognized herself. She looked different. She looked like someone who had a chance. "Thank you," she said, looking at Jonathan with watery eyes. "There's no need to thank me, you deserve this." 3 days later, Jonathan called Jenna with news. "I got you an interview." "What? Where?" "A cafe downtown. It's called Morning Light. It's a respected place, nice crowd, pays well. The interview is tomorrow at 10 in the morning." Jenna felt her heart race. Jonathan, I don't know if I can. You can. I know you can. The next day, Jenna got dressed in the clothes Jonathan had given her. She combed her hair carefully, put on a little makeup she had kept for years. Jonathan showed up to take her to the cafe. The girls stayed with an elderly neighbor who sometimes helped out. On the way, Jenna was trembling. I'm nervous. I know, but you'll do well. Remember everything we practiced? What if I forget everything? You won't forget. Breathe deep. When they arrived at the cafe, Jonathan held her hand for a second. You got this. I'm right here waiting. Jenna entered the cafe. It was beautiful, cozy, smelled of fresh coffee and warm bread. The manager, a woman in her 40s named Sandra, welcomed her with a smile. You must be Jenna. Yes, nice to meet you. The interview lasted 20 minutes. Sandra asked questions about experience, availability, why Jenna wanted to work there. Jenna answered everything calmly, looking her in the eye, breathing deep as Jonathan had taught her. At the end, Sandra smiled. You have good energy and solid experience. When can you start? Jenna widened her eyes. I got it. You got it. Can you start Monday? Yes, of course. Jenna left the cafe almost floating. Jonathan was waiting leaning against the car. When he saw her face, he knew. You got it. I got it, Jenna shouted, running to him. She hugged him tight, laughing and crying at the same time. Jonathan hugged her back, feeling his heart warm. I knew it. I knew you could do it. Thank you. Thank you for believing in me. Always. Life began to change. Jenna started working at the cafe on Monday. The schedule was good, from 8 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. She could take the girls to school before and pick them up after. The pay wasn't huge, but it was enough. Enough to pay rent on time, enough to buy real food, enough to live with dignity. The routine got organized. Jenna woke up early, got the girls ready, took them to school, went to work, picked them up in the late afternoon, made dinner, helped with homework, put them to sleep, and for the first time in years, there was food on the table every day. Rice, beans, meat, vegetables, fruit. The girls were eating properly, gaining weight, getting healthier, and there were smiles. Many smiles, daily. Jonathan visited whenever he could. Sometimes he brought Lucas to play with the girls. Other times, he just stopped by to see how they were. The children were extremely close now. Lucas, Ivy, and Kate were inseparable. They played together, laughed together, protected each other like real siblings. And slowly, sweetly, and naturally, Jenna and Jonathan were getting closer emotionally. They talked more, shared stories, shared fears and dreams. One night, after the girls were asleep, Jonathan was helping Jenna wash the dinner dishes. You seem happier, he commented. I am happier, much more, and it's thanks to you. No, it's thanks to you. I just gave you a little push. Jenna stopped washing the plate and looked at him. You did much more than that. You gave me hope when I had none. You believed in me when not even I believed. Jonathan held her gaze. Because I see you, Jenna. Really, and I see someone amazing. She felt her face heat up. Jonathan. He took a step closer. Can I tell you something? Sure. I'm getting attached to you guys, to you, to the girls, in a way I didn't expect. Jenna's heart raced. Me too. I'm getting attached to you too. They stood there, still, looking at each other. There was so much unsaid, so much feeling growing. But neither of them was in a rush. They were letting things happen naturally. On the weekend, Jonathan took everyone to the park. Lucas, Ivy, Kate, Jenna, and him. They had a picnic on the grass, played ball, laughed until their stomachs hurt. The children ran together, screaming and laughing. Jonathan and Jenna sat on a blanket, watching. They look like a family, Jenna said softly. They do, Jonathan agreed. And then, almost whispering, maybe because they are. Jenna looked at him, surprised. Jonathan held her hand. I'm not asking for anything right now. I just want you to know that when I think about the future, I see you guys, you, Ivy, Kate, being part of my life, of Lucas's life. Jenna felt her eyes fill with tears. Jonathan, we don't need to rush. But I need you to know how I feel. She squeezed his hand. I feel the same. I'm just scared. Of what? That this is too good to be true. That I'll wake up and realize it was just a dream. Jonathan brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. It's not a dream, it's real. And I'm not going anywhere. Jenna rested her head on his shoulder, and they stayed there watching the children play, feeling something deep grow between them. Life was changing, and for the first time, it was changing for the better. 3 months passed since Jenna started working at the cafe. Life had changed in a way she could barely believe. There was food on the table every day. There was real stability. There were constant smiles, and there was Jonathan. That Friday night, he had invited Jenna and the girls for dinner at his house. It was already common now. They had dinner together at least twice a week, and each meeting seemed more natural than the last. Dinner was light and lively. The children talked non-stop, telling stories from school, laughing at inside jokes only they understood. Jonathan and Jenna exchanged glances across the table, silent smiles that said more than words could express. After dinner, the children went to the living room to watch a movie. Jenna and Jonathan washed the dishes together, side by side, in comfortable and familiar silence. They're happy, Jenna commented, looking at the living room where the 3 children were wrapped in blankets on the big sofa. They really are, Jonathan agreed, smiling. When they finished, they went to the living room too. The movie was still playing on the TV, but the children were too quiet. Jonathan approached slowly and noticed they had fallen asleep. Lucas was in the middle, with Ivy on one side and Kate on the other. The 3 hugged, breathing softly, completely relaxed and safe. Look at this, Jonathan whispered to Jenna. She approached and felt her chest tighten with emotion. They looked like real siblings, hugged as if they had always been a family. They are so beautiful like that, she said softly, eyes watery. Jonathan grabbed an extra blanket and placed it over the 3 children carefully. They didn't even move, lost in deep and peaceful sleep. Come, he whispered, motioning to the other sofa. Jenna followed him, and they sat side by side on the smaller sofa, facing the sleeping children. The house was quiet, only the soft light of the TV illuminating the cozy room. Jonathan looked at Jenna. She was watching the girls with so much love in her eyes that he felt his heart squeeze tight. He took a deep breath. It was time to say what he felt. Jenna, she turned her face to him. I need to tell you something. She noticed the serious tone in his voice and became completely attentive. What is it? Jonathan took her hand, interlacing fingers carefully. What we have isn't just friendship. Jenna's heart accelerated immediately. I see you differently, he continued, voice low but firm and full of conviction. And when you and the girls are here, I feel like my family became complete, that finally everything is in the right place, just like it always should have been. Jenna felt her eyes fill with hot tears. She squeezed his hand tightly. Jonathan, I know we've been through a lot, both of us. I know it was hard to trust again after everything that happened, but I need you to know I love you, Jenna, truly, and I love your girls as if they were my own daughters. The tears rolled down her face uncontrollably. I feel the same, she said, voice trembling with pure emotion. Here, with you, it's the first time I feel I have a home, a real home, not just a place to live, but a place where I belong, where we belong. Jonathan raised his free hand and wiped the tears from her face affectionately. I love you, he repeated, looking deep into her eyes. I love you too, Jenna replied, smiling through the tears. Jonathan leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull back if she wanted. But she didn't pull back. She leaned in too, meeting him halfway, and they kissed. It was a soft kiss, delicate, full of promises and feelings kept for so long, a kiss that sealed something new and true. When they parted, both were smiling like teenagers in love. So, we're doing this? Jenna asked, almost not believing it was real. We're doing this, Jonathan confirmed. If you want to. I want to, very much. They hugged tight, and Jenna rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. It was real. It was solid. It was safe. It was forever. That was when they heard movement on the sofa. Ivy was moving, opening her eyes slowly. She blinked a few times, disoriented, and then saw her mother and Jonathan hugging. "Mommy!" she called with a sleepy and confused voice. Jenna pulled away from Jonathan and approached her daughter quickly. "Hi, my love. Everything is okay." Kate woke up too, rubbing her eyes with her small hands. "What happened? Is the movie over?" Lucas moved in the middle but didn't wake up completely, just turned to the other side, mumbling something incomprehensible. Ivy looked at her mother, then at Jonathan sitting nearby, and then asked the question that changed everything. "Mommy, are we a family now?" Jenna felt her heart stop for a whole second. She looked at Jonathan, not knowing exactly what to answer, seeking confirmation in his eyes. Jonathan got up and went to the girls. He knelt in front of the sofa, getting to their eye level. "Do you guys want to be a family?" he asked gently, with sincerity. Kate nodded with immediate excitement. "Yes, I want to very much." "Very much." Ivy looked at her mother, waiting for confirmation from her before answering. Jenna approached and knelt beside Jonathan. She looked at her daughters and then at him, feeling her heart overflow with love. "Yes," Jenna said, looking first at Jonathan and then at the girls. "Now we are a family," Jonathan repeated, looking straight into her eyes with intensity. "Yes, now we are a family." Ivy smiled, a big and true smile that lit up her entire face. Kate jumped off the sofa and hugged both of them at the same time, with all the strength her little hands had. Ivy joined immediately, hugging with intensity and emotion. The noise and all the movement woke Lucas, who opened his eyes completely confused by the scene. "What's going on here?" "We're a family now," Kate shouted, excited and radiant with happiness. Lucas looked at his father, still processing the information. Jonathan smiled and waved for him to come closer. "Come here, son." Lucas got off the sofa slowly and went to them, still half asleep. Jonathan pulled him into the group hug firmly. "Jenna, Ivy, and Kate are going to be part of our family now, forever. They are going to stay with us." Lucas looked at the blonde girls, then at their mother, and then smiled wide. "Really, truly? For real? Really?" "For real," Jonathan confirmed firmly. "That's so cool. Now I have real sisters." Kate laughed loudly, happy. "And we have a brother." Ivy hugged Lucas with unexpected strength. "I always wanted a brother." They stayed there, the five of them hugged in the middle of the lit living room. The decoration lights twinkled softly in the background. The house was warm, welcoming, full of palpable love. Jonathan looked at Jenna over the children's heads. She was crying again, but they were tears of pure and overflowing happiness. He had found what was always missing, not just a partner, but a complete and true family. And Jenna had found what she never thought she would have. A man who didn't turn his back, who stayed, who loved her and her daughters unconditionally, without reservations. "I love you guys," Jonathan said, looking at each of them. "I love you guys too," Jenna replied, with her heart overflowing. "Me too," Kate shouted excitedly. "Me too," Ivy said softly but with deep sincerity. "Me too," Lucas completed, smiling happily. They hugged even tighter, and in that moment everything made perfect sense. The struggles, the pain, the difficult and lonely nights, everything had led to that magical moment, to that family. Jonathan kissed Jenna's forehead with infinite tenderness. She smiled and looked around, at the hugged children, at the lit house, at the warmth she felt in her chest. For the first time in her whole life, she was home. For real. And she would never be alone again. The five stayed hugged for a long time, officially forming a happy, united, and complete family. A family that had been born from pain, but had been built with love, and love was all they needed. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.